One day.
Thank you for tuning in to this session of the Mid-Atlantic District Leadership Academy. This session is for Chapter VP of Music. Terry Reynolds will be presenting today. Thanks for being here. Like we said, we've gone to great lengths to arrange today's session. We've scoured the mountains and the valleys and the high seas to bring you the very best in entertainment today. And I'm sure you'll gain insights from our presenter and from each other. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Terry Reynolds, who's going to share with us on the topic of Chapter Vice President for Music. So Terry, I'll toss the ball to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rob. If I may, throughout the presentation, ask for questions, feel free at that point to unmute and don't bother putting it in the chat. I hope we have a lot of interaction. The materials that I will be presenting are based on, for those of you that have been around long enough to remember COTS, Chapter Officer Training School. I taught music and performance for COTS it's been over 15 years, I think, since the last one was done, but this material is I've kind of kept fresh and mostly fresh and adapted from that. So this is back what was being taught in the day. The basic role of music performance is still there. The materials at the time were intended to cover a day and a half of of classes, so with a lot of interaction. So unfortunately, I think 2.5 is a good time for a Zoom meeting, but my apologies. I will ask for feedback and questions and sharing things that have been successful with your chapter. I may cut you off if it goes too long, because I want to get through all the material. I've timed it out to get through the material with about a half hour at the left to talk about anything that's left in the parking lot that we're going to set up in just a minute. Anything that is COVID, so the class I'm basically going to teach is pre or post COVID. We understand it's a different world right now. I did set aside some time to talk about and share experiences with music performance in this arena. We'll do some of that as we go, but there's some time at the end of that and for questions and answers. So I'm going to ask you to do introductions in a moment. So my name is Terry Reynolds. I've been involved with leading or involved in some significant way with the, welcome, whoever just joined, with the music leadership team of the Alexander Harmonizers for over 25 years now. I've also been music performance vice president of the Arlingtones, 30-man chapter at the time in the 80s. And had lots of shared great experiences of chapters of all sizes as I've taught this over the years. So I guess I've done the apologies. There is nothing that I'm going to say that is Terry Reynolds prescriptive, this is the way to do it, and there's nothing the BHS is going to say, this is the way to do it. Every chapter is different. Every musical director is different. So we're going to cover the responsibilities that fall under the music and performance vice president, share ideas that you can find out what's right for you and for your chapter and your relationship with your music vice president. Okay, so these are the basic topics that we plan to cover in the next little over 2 hours. The importance of chapter mission statement, or at least some discussion of chapter identity. The music leadership team, how it functions and the different responsibilities in the music team. The music VP and the director, their working relationship. Recruiting, orientation, and retention. We'll go through that pretty quickly because remember we have the group session in 3 weeks with membership and marketing, and a lot of that overlaps with membership. The chapter meeting. Some groups have that separate under a program VP or something like that, but often it falls under the music team. And certainly the music team has lots of responsibilities within the chapter meeting. So we'll talk about that. Chorus performances, quartet support development, planning and budgeting. Well, as I said, we'll leave some time if there's other specific discussions with life under COVID. And then I want to give you a little information on things from the BHS offers from the Healthy Chapter Initiative if you're not aware of those programs. Chapter mission statement. the point is to, when a chapter just forms, everybody knows, there's kind of a reason why you're forming, and the initial group knows why they're there, and there's a feeling of identity that you don't need to talk about because everybody knows it. Hershey's a fairly recent chapter, an example that probably doesn't need to talk about their identity very much quite yet. Those of us that have been around for a much longer time, we just kind of get the people aren't left that join the chapter. So at least occasionally you need to talk about your chapter identity, whether you call it a mission statement or something else. It's a good idea if you haven't recently to talk about that. It defines your goals. It states why you exist and your priorities. And it can be a guide for decisions of the music team. How much you go to competition, whether you qualify your members or the level of auditions, a lot of that can come out of your mission statement. Just quick, for those that are visual, show of hands, how many of you know that your chapter has a mission statement and have some idea what it is? Okay, several, not everybody. So if you don't, it might, and maybe other people know and you don't, those that are newer to your chapters, it's a good idea to ask. If you have not done it recently, it's a good idea between the board and the music team to refresh that and think about it. If you're interested, one of the Healthy Chapter Initiative programs that I'll mention briefly later is called Think, which is part of that, is to rethink your identity and other parts of your chapter, and there's a facilitated way to do that. Yeah, sorry, it's little. I love teaching or facilitating this class in a live group when it's easier to talk. Going back and forth from Zoom, you'll bear with me while I. Okay, the music leadership team. I heard from most of you that you have one, so I won't spend a lot of time, but certainly the benefits of involving more people, it's more to spread the load, more people doing the work, more people involved representing more opinions and planning and setting goals. More people can be involved in the chapter meeting or Zoom rehearsal or whatever it is that give, even if your director is the best person to be out front, having variety and different mannerisms and vocal variety with other people involved keeps the meeting interesting. Also develops talent. Your future director might start as a section leader or something else. And just improves the music quality with more people having ownership involved in it. Anybody else want to add particular reasons of why it's good to have a music team? Okay. All right, so this is, once again, there's no exact answer, but these are kind of the functions that most chapters would have. The ones on the left in bold are the ones that most any chapter needs to cover in some way. And if you're a medium or larger chapter, you might consider some of the other things. Section leaders in particular have different roles in different chapters. What would you say is the role of the section leader? Anybody?
Okay, I'll kick in on that one. Terry, is Rusty. In particular, we're concerned with making sure we've got the right notes, the right words, and the right vocal quality and section unity within our group. And then making sure that's coordinated with the director's goals of whether we're going to be a little bit lighter, darker, how we blend. So
that's stated in a way that not everybody that is kind of the section, what I heard was the section leader's responsibility for the section to have their notes and words correct.
Yes, doing that either through qualifications, through wandering around and sitting next to somebody and listening, however it works for that particular group.
So I like the idea that I haven't heard from every chapter that telling the section leader that they have that responsibility, as opposed to thinking that the director has the responsibility, but the section leader is just kind of a facilitator, an assistant to help and run the section leaders. No, the section leader has responsibility for the quality of the section. Is a way that a lot of chapters do that then gives the section leader a little more authority and responsibility and perhaps flexibility in how they achieve that goal. Other different thoughts on section leaders? How many?
Should we just raise our hands or should we just speak
Bud's
out?
waving his
speak.
hand.
I'm sorry, because I can't see everybody's hands as long as that. I'll stop sharing for a moment. We'll put up with me going back and forth. Bud, go ahead.
Yeah, I firmly believe that to have a unit sound, and I call unit sound being singing word sounds, singing diphthongs the same way, pronouncing words the same way, etc. You really need to train the section leaders. And who has to do that? I think it's a combination. If your course doesn't have someone whose ability to do that, you have to talk to the director, find out what he wants, as Rusty was saying. But I think you need a qualified person who's been around for long and knows how to do it, to teach the section leaders, how do you treat the men? How are you going to teach these people this? And how are you going to follow up on this type of thing? It's a very important job. And without a really good sections run by section leaders who are trained to do the same thing with each section, so that if I'm the lead section leader and the baritone section leader are teaching something differently on the same topic, that doesn't work for the course. I really believe there should be training for section
One
leaders.
of the roles of the music team is, and opportunity at meetings is to make sure you're using common language and common approaches to things, because it's confusing the guys. If a section leader says one thing, if two section leaders say a different thing, and the director says is a third thing. So that's a great point.
We also have administrative section leaders who are responsible for making sure they're in charge of retention, to make sure that if somebody's missing, we check up on them, and particularly during COVID times, looking out for the mental health of everybody in the chapter and just checking up on the people in their sections all the time. And
that's great.
For the musical part, you know, the part that you've been talking about, our director really is a section leader for that part, for the leads. And our co-director is a bass, so he does the bass part. And then we have tenors and baritones don't need any help, so there you are.
So two things I'll throw out based on that comment, that there's different ways, whether it's some chapters have music section leaders who aren't as good administratively, and the membership team is doing the tracking on folks. Having an administrative section leader within the section is a great way of doing it, can be done effectively. But between the music and membership team, have some working relationship of how you're reaching out to members and keeping track, particularly during COVID, of people that haven't been participating.
Well, our membership and marketing and music and performance VPs meet regularly, and
Awesome.
I think there's such an integral part of each other. They really play into each other's hands.
So came up of a section where there wasn't a section leader, or maybe someone not qualified to be a section leader. Any thoughts on how to approach that? Or to train one? Go ahead, Bud.
Send them to the schools we have, which are fantastic. I learned almost all my stuff by going to school.
And if somebody's not ready to be a section leader, they don't have to. You can have a section leader training, pair them with the director to co-work together and to get feedback from the director. If you don't have strength in one part, once again, to grow more people to share the load and the responsibility. Okay, I'll switch back slide. So chorus manager has different terms in different chapters, but basically somebody who's responsible for the managing of, it's often managing of the performances, as well as managing the chorus through the performance. Most of the rest of this is self-explanatory. Do have, if you don't have a separate librarian, just to be legal and cover all the copyright, which is so much more complicated in the last few years, money in that role. Kevin, question?
Yeah, but what does it actually mean to manage the chorus, though? Can you define manage in that
So
context?
once again, not one. So in this case, the typical definition of a chorus manager is effectively managing the chorus for purposes of performances. They may even be the person that's getting the gigs, but it's communicating the information about taking the definitions of or whatever parameters the music team or has defined as to what type of performances you're going to do and how they're going to be done, and make sure the information goes to the chorus, that the venue will it fit your risers? Do you need a sound system? Kind of managing the show and the information the chorus needs to get to the show. Some chapters divide that up in multiple types of positions, but here, that's what it's talking about here, is to manage the chorus through performances. I see a hand up on Rusty.
Yeah, Terry. Yeah, Terry, would an analogy be the district's operations team who does so many things to get ready for the conventions? Would that be like the district analogy to a chorus manager?
Yeah. Do other people just quickly have other types of roles that cover that or split it up in different ways? I can't see all the hands, so if you're raising your hand, just unmute and speak.
Steve Kirsch here. At Hershey, we call it the Vice President of Operations.
Okay.
So they handle all that stuff. Pretty much okay, here's our target, here's our goal. Now, what do we, as leadership, and what do the members need to make that goal happen?
Great. Anyone else? The harmonizers actually have a operations director and a shows director separate from music, and those people have to do a lot of
Pre-COVID, our chorus manager before COVID, our chorus manager was the one who scouted out where we were going to be performing for the gigs ahead of time, made sure that it was all lined up. We knew where we were going, lines up the chorus, tells us what to wear, sends out the
exactly
the event sheet before the event, so we know exactly where we're supposed to go, when we're supposed to be there, what we're supposed to wear, all that type of thing.
Great. Any other questions or comments or throw out for feedback from others about different roles of music leadership?
In the Arlingtons, the course manager, program VP, librarian are all rolled into music and performance.
For a small chapter, a lot of this can be done in one or two people, though if you can talk one or two people into doing other people to take on just one small piece of the role, then it lightens your load.
Yes, we are going to work on that.
Terry, I don't see anything there about, and maybe it's not the wrong place, about selection of music.
A repertoire coordinator at the very last. So, and many different ways of doing that as well. But yeah, somebody needs to be in charge of that if it's, and can be effectively done separate from the music performance VP, or it can, for a smaller chapter, it may just be done with the music team. But yeah, somebody needs to have that role. Anything else? All right. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. You're already in the job, so you don't need to know what your qualifications are, though I will make the comment that lots of chapters, the music VP role is frequently done effectively by someone with strong administrative skills, more important than their musical skills. Often chapters, they think music VP, we need one of the best musical people in the chapter. You got that in your director. Music and VP needs to be someone that can speak music, but the skills are more important, are organizational, administrative. Okay, so I'm just going to take a second and let you read down the list of responsibilities of the music and performance of the music team or music VP, or however. So take about a minute and read, and then see what other questions. This is intended to encapsulate the responsibilities of the music team. Questions, comments? And I saw something pop up in the chat, which we'll address in a second. Any questions on the?
I'm presuming, I think you said this earlier, but each of these slides will get mailed to us?
It actually did about a half hour beforehand. If I got the emails correct, check your email. It was attached, and it was and a link to a Google Drive. And Rob will also make that available afterwards along with the video.
Now I don't have to write so much.
Yes, you don't have to take notes. Other questions or comments on list of, or actually this probably came from a bunch of music and performance instructors 20 years ago that put this together, that I haven't changed too much. Okay. There was a question in the chat. Contest and convention, can we discuss where we are going and how the music team should prepare? So I mean, deciding whether to go to contest and how to plan for it, I would say is probably a full music team discussion. I'm not sure, and maybe part of an annual planning meeting, which we'll talk about later, as to if and when you're going to go to compete and what songs you're going to do and so forth. Was there additional question on that? Sorry, I forget who placed that in the chat.
Well, Terry, that was one that I brought up because generally the contests are a major planning block.
Yep.
For our year, and obviously this year it's completely different.
Right.
Yet at the same time, how do we address the what I look forward to as the joyful coming out when we finally do have a convention together,
right? And
we can all be singing together, and just where the music team should be placing their thoughts on this. I know COVID is not plannable.
So COVID aside, I would argue, and we're going to talk a little bit later, that part of the role of the music team is to do longer term planning for contests, shows, repertoire, developing new members of the music team, and so forth. So that's can either be addressed like on annual, have a major meeting and discuss it, or maybe it's an ongoing thing. But yes, that's definitely part of the music team, is to be making those decisions that they need to make well in advance that will affect the following year. Okay. We know pretty much what a course director does. I'm gonna go through this pretty quickly. Know that there's a slide here. If you're doing a director search, main thing is, don't just find a director. If you're looking for a director, stop and think about who you are and what type of director you want. Don't just take a warm body, but a suggested list. And there's also material on the BHS website for a director search. If your chapter has a program VP, has a separate person that is responsible for putting fun in the meeting, that's great. And then the music team has to work with that person. If not, it may fall to the music team to weekly meetings. These are a variety of things that can be done that different members of the music leadership team do after meetings to give more people some training and give some variety to the members. Glance at that while I look at the chat. Balance of contest and music development when you have a music leader or director pushing to do more or less. So I'm debating whether to try to push that off now or bring it up. Hold me to it, but let's add that to the parking lot, because that's I think some of that is anytime disagreement amongst the music team, we can talk about how to approach that.
All right, I got that in the parking lot.
Okay, thank you. More on the director side, but there are multiple ways to teach. If you don't know the quartet teaching method, it is a proven and successful way of doing things with or without, whether the course has learning tracks, by having a quartet know it in advance and sing one part at a time through small segments of the song, so it doesn't get monotonous, but it reinforces the part of the song, so it uses the natural human, the way we learn and memorize things to help reinforce. And if you have more questions about that, ask me about that later. So this kind of gets to your comment, the chorus and music director working together. I'm going to skip to the VP and working together. So let me ask a question. Does the director work for the music and performance VP, or does the music and performance VP work for the director? What do you think?
Director works for the music VP.
Anyone disagree?
It's in our contract.
It depends upon the local chapter. In the Carolinas chapter where we came from, we selected the director worked for us.
Us as the chapter, or the music performance VP?
Us, the chapter, but coordinated by the music team.
Right.
In the Red Rose Chorus of Lancaster, the leadership group has been together probably for decades, and in our COVID role particularly, the director has taken on a lot of responsibility of leadership.
So and there is no right or wrong answer to this, and a lot of it is adapted to the personality and strengths and communication style of the director and music VP and how they're involved. My answer to the question is yes, they kind of work for one another. In my opinion, it's a problem. I see lots of chapters, oh, I'm the music performance VP, I'm going to tell the director what he should do. That's not the intent. Music, yes, the board hires the director, and the music performance VP is probably the person on the board responsible for communicating any constructive or negative feedback from the board to the director on things that they want to change. That said, you hire the director for their musical skills. And for most of the time, if you're happy with your director, it's more the music and performance VP's job to make the director's job as easy as possible and support him or her in their goals in making it and being successful. So I would argue against thinking of it purely as the director works for the music VP. It's really, in that case, it's only when there's a problem with the director. Most of the time, the music team is supporting the vision of the director, and the music performance VP is the admin that's keeping everybody in line with that. My personal philosophy with the harmonizers is that I'm Joe Cerruti's chief of staff. I try to what he's thinking and his job and take as much away from it as possible so he can focus on the musical things and make administrative things happen.
So would you say, Terry, it's kind of like a cooperative partnership?
It is. An example is often given is the athletic director, the coach and athletic director of a sports team. The coach is the one that gets the goal, is ultimately responsible for everything, but they're dependent on the athletic director to make a lot of things happen and make some key decisions. Disagreement, comments about that topic? Rusty gave us a thumbs up. So. Okay. And I'm already behind my already compressed schedule, so let's see how we're doing. So to summarize what we just talks about, the relationship with the athletic director, the head coach. My advice to a music performance VP is just have conversations with your director about what they what would make their job easier, and you yourself or find other people to do that. Every director, every music team is going to be different. Quickly look at the chat. And different directors are going to work differently. Most kind of the director is the decision maker, and he's looking for advice from the music team and section leaders to make his decision. Other chapters, they take votes at music committee meetings. That's kind of the style and decision of your chapter. And this is common sense stuff about working together, administrator and organizer. Okay. Any other final questions on the music team or music VP working together with the director, and we can pick up some more at the very end. We'll quickly talk about recruiting, orientation, and retention because that's more membership, but the music team certainly has a role. Whether you recruit, the music team has to weigh in is your chapter going to be for anybody can come sing, or are you going to have some sort of audition or standard? And there's no right or wrong answer for that. That kind of goes back to the identity to talk about and think what you need. Do keep in mind, if you are a chapter that wants to do well in competition and reach a certain quality, choosing to have someone on your risers that can't stay in tune will impact. You're making the choice for other people who are less likely to join the chapter because they're not having the musical experience they're looking for. So there is no right or wrong answer, but there is a right or wrong answer for your chapter, and it's worth having that discussion. How you're going to do voice placements and auditions. Think about where a guest should stand on the risers. Music team should all be contributing to that to be a successful in concert with the music team. And biggest problem that most chapters across the society, harmonizers included, is we get people in the door and then we don't do a good job remembering how hard it is to join a chapter and learn all the songs and how do I get them and who do I ask for this and so forth. To do some sort of orientation and retention program that helps people from when they become a member that gets them through their first year. The percentage of people who join the society and don't renew after the second year is over half. That means we aren't doing our job to help them understand and be comfortable with things. My favorite on this list is celebrate first performance. I know some courses wait till, oh, well, you have to be blessed in the whole repertoire before you can perform with us. Guys can never get there. You know, what's wrong if they can learn one song and step on the risers for a show and get that feeling to be part of the performance? Make that happen as early as possible. Know when your next show is, when you've got someone who just became a member. Pick a song or two next to each other and have them focus on learning those songs and give them a chance to perform, and then celebrate with your chapter the first performance. Would love to have a longer conversation on that, and we'll see if we get more time at the end. But those are my preachy points. Certainly planning guest nights and other things we'll talk more about in 3 weeks combined with membership, but the music team certainly has a significant role in that. And orienting new members. Chapter meeting. So we talked some about this. Different chapters, whether it's part of the music team's responsibility or whether you have a separate program VP that is running the chapter meeting, somebody has to have the role responsible for the chapter meeting. And if that's not a member of the music team, then the music team has to coordinate with that person. So it's a little bit anachronistic, but from years ago, we talked about the 8 points of fun. But I would like to use it to quickly, if you would brainstorm at some point, the society said the 8 things that should be part of every chapter meeting. What do you think? What are the things that should be part of every chapter meeting? Go ahead and unmute him.
The old songs and keep the whole world singing.
What was the first one?
The old songs.
Okay. Certainly a choice for the chapter. That's a little more. Lots of chapters have those traditions. This is BHS saying that every chapter should do every meeting.
Warm-ups.
Warm-ups. Yep.
Glad I was there.
Say that
Glad I was there.
Expound.
In other words, it was an enjoyable experience.
And that's so how does that manifest itself at the end? Is that something that happened, that somebody leads at the end of rehearsal, or?
It could be fun. It could be satisfaction. It could be a lot of things.
So I'm talking right now about things that when you're planning a rehearsal, what are the 8 things that should always be part of every rehearsal? And your point is fun?
Interaction. Let's use
Okay.
that one.
Okay. I love it. Go ahead. What else?
Repertoire review.
Repertoire review or course rehearsal. Yeah, absolutely. That is probably the significant part. What else? Brian?
A brief board meeting or membership meeting and social time.
At every chapter rehearsal?
The brief business meeting.
Yes, business meeting. Yep.
I said board, a brief business meeting and some social time.
Yep, absolutely. Anything else? I will throw up.
Craft training.
Yes, very good. So this was the what was then talked about as the 8 points of fun. Do some fun singing, something you guys can feel more relaxed. A polecat. It certainly includes keep the whole world singing. If you do that at the end, something that is not under the pressure of the director correcting everything, but more for fun. May have a separate.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I would say quartetting would be fun, allowing you rehearse a song and then allow some quartets to come up and sing it.
Yeah, have a quartet activity. Maybe at this point, not for every chapter would do that every rehearsal, but you can spend a pushed out quartet, or you can do something fun in quick minutes and in just a couple minutes and not take a lot of time away from things. The craft, you can have a separate part of your program that is not specifically rehearsing a song, but about breathing or posture or phonation or something to that effect, or it can be worked in as part of the director's time when they're working music. Woodsetting or tags, that kind of goes back to the fun singing. Something that's fun. Business meeting you have to have in course rehearsal. I think you hit the rest of them. Any other quick anecdotes of things that you include in your meetings to keep them fun and interesting?
Well, there's a lot of things we're doing differently in Zoom world than we are in real rehearsal world too.
Yep. All right, we'll come back to Zoom at the end. So you know that you have this in the slides, just an example plan of rehearsal. Somebody should have a fairly detailed plan of rehearsal that the music team knows what's happening when, and the program person knows what's happening when, probably down to the minute to get through it. Whether or not you provide that level of detail to the members, we actually choose not to. We tell the members what's going to happen, but we don't tell them when. We don't want people if the director is working on something and wants more time, and then we just take it away for something later. We don't want the guys looking at their watch and saying, "You were supposed to be done 2 minutes ago." So that's our choice, not to include that. Bud?
We put the schedule on the board, and it's usually the same unless we change it after a couple of months. And we do have someone's wife who is there all the time, and she is a timekeeper, and she will let us know it's time, or she'll raise her hand. You got 5 minutes. If the director
Yep.
wants to continue, he will.
Yes, that's the, yeah. Particularly, if it's somebody's doing a fun activity, you might want to go ahead and cut them off, give them a warning and cut them off necessary. If the director wants a little more time, give the director a little more time. You can't always predict exactly what's going to happen, and you need a few more minutes to finish and have a success of what we're working on. This is just a brainstorm of other activities, and I believe in the chapter music leadership guide that is on the society website, which I sent you the link to, and we'll talk about more later, his other ideas of that. Just be creative and have something fun every now and then, something different. You don't have to sing the full rehearsal every night. Some of this is not is clearly not COVID friendly, but whether it's and just even different types of quartet activities as well to keep it up and keep it interesting. Okay, this is one of my passions, is the music leadership have some sort of short weekly chapter review. It can be done, lots of chapters do this successfully by having it after rehearsal. The music team goes off into another room for 5 or 10 minutes. What worked, what didn't, what we can improve on, and what are the priorities for next week. We can't ever make that happen on a rehearsal night for whatever reason. People are getting pulled different directions. So we actually have now it's a Zoom call. Before that, it was a conference call the day after rehearsal at 6:15. We keep it to 15 minutes. It's a great, particularly for a music team that doesn't have strong relationships. It's to build that discussion. Assuming the director wants the feedback. I know our director wants to hear from the section leaders constructive criticism if they thought something that he did was not effective. And just the balance of time representing their members as to what the chorus needs as you're planning the schedule. Anybody else do this in another way? Some of you have I guess you could have a breakout session at the end of your Zoom meeting. And once again, the intention is, we're pretty strict about, if somebody asks another topic, well, if there's time at the end, fine, but we want people to be able to participate and keep it focused and short. Ours, we can usually keep to 10 or 15 minutes. It absolutely does not go more than half an hour, and we do it every week. And things that were longer discussion, then you postpone till your next full music team meeting, which is once a month, once every other month, whatever works for your chapter. One more thing for Terry Soapbox. So was this to my recent question, Rusty? Can we equate this to our at the hot wash?
Yeah. What I would look for is, first place, I agree with every principle you've got up there. That's the best way that we have ever run rehearsals in the past. But right now we're dealing with Zoom.
Yep.
With various other things. I'm just wondering which points should we pick out that we can actually execute in today's Zoom world? For instance, you talk about a post chapter meeting review.
Yep.
We care, but you can see that a lot of the things here are difficult to touch on.
Other than audition results, we on our meeting, we still have a conference call every week after our Zoom meeting, and we discuss all these points. So to me, from a meeting review from the music team, it's the topics themselves change a little bit, and what we're trying to put in, and whether we're trying to do the balance of music and fellowship is something we talk about every so often. But the fact that we have the meeting hasn't changed.
Okay, so that becomes a keeper.
I would, there's even, to me, there's even more reason to to have this discussion. If you're doing any singing at all, to have the feedback to the director and the discussion and consensus of the team about what's being effective and what's not being effective. Chorus performance. Standards and requirements performance is what this is talking about. Something that if your chapter hasn't thought about, and whether it's the music team or whether, depending on your organization, you could have a shows team or something else. But have a discussion. How often do you want to perform? How do you want to set a rule about if it's too close, you won't, if it's too late to notify the chapter, you're not going to do it? Are there types of shows you do or don't want to do? Types of audiences? What lengths of performance are you capable of as a chorus right now, given your repertoire? This is really post-COVID, but make sure you think about that. Don't want your booker to go off and book a 2-hour show if you can only fill an hour of it. And none of this needs to be etched in stone as absolute, but it's conversations that would be worth having, maybe at a music planning meeting about. Now, in particular, how often you want to perform. And if you decide that it's good for your chapter to have a performance once a month, it's healthy, it's fun for the guys, it gets them out and singing and performing, and you can't come up with that many paid gigs, there's lots of ways to do free gigs that gets you out, that could be part of the planning if you have that discussion and think about what you want to do. I'll just things to think about in preparing a chorus for performance, that depending on your level, types of shows you might have, whether or not you have coaching and other things to prepare for those shows.
Harry, I think the first thing you need to do, if somebody's looking to get a show, you've got to talk to the director to find out who's going to be in front of the chorus. Otherwise, it's not worth pursuing.
Well, right, it needs to be part of the of lots of chapters. Will you need to decide as a music team: are you only going to set gigs when the director is available, or the director, an assistant? But yes, before you, that's certainly a great point. That needs to be on the list. But discuss, know exactly what that process is for your chapter. Some chapters block out dates in advance and say, this is pre-approved, you can do it. Lots of ways of doing it.
Rusty, thank you for that. I'll go ahead and include that.
Thank you.
In the parking lot.
So again, that if you would like to perform more than you are post-COVID, this is just brainstorming of types of things that you could pursue for performances, either as a chorus or for quartets. Lots of things that you can do for free to have a performance: schools, churches, hospitals, malls. But if you're looking to do more shows, this is just more of an idea. Anyway, yeah, go ahead, Bud.
You may want to bring it up later, but the Pine Barrens are going to do Singing Valentines by video.
Oh, nice.
We've planned out how to do it, and we're all in the process of doing it now.
Awesome.
Are you doing live video, or are you doing them as canned ones that you're then sending?
We're going to can them and then ask people who want to do it. We'll charge them a fee, and we'll have that person's face on it and something introducing him to the person he wants to sing for or wants us to sing for. The chorus will have 2 songs to sing, and we've reduced our price from $60 when we used to give them tickets and roses and candy down to it's either $20 or $25 for the video.
But it will be live, you said.
No, it will not be live.
Oh, be pre-recorded.
The only
Okay.
it'll be pre-recorded with the intro being put on with the person's name and the person he's singing it for.
Nice. Anybody else already planning to do Singing Valentines?
I think we're planning to do them as a part. We usually do phone singing Valentines anywhere in the country, but now we're going to have people doing it using canned or pre-recorded videos and do it that way. We've actually done our quartet has done a couple of shows for groups that we performed for in the past where we had their Zoom Christmas parties for them and gotten paid for that, put together about an hour-long PowerPoint and gone through and performed some songs that way.
We've debated about, and we still may or may not do something where we will set up so it's basically a distance quartet using microphones, but then have a live recording Zoom, in essence, going on, and do the Valentines directly so that at 12 o'clock you sign up for a Valentine, the quartet's doing it live, and then have somebody show up with flowers at 12 o'clock to match along with it. Because again, we make a lot of the money on the flowers.
Awesome. That's a lot of coordination, and you better do sound checks, but that's impressive if you can pull that off. That's great.
Well, Rob, you
Well,
could
the
have
idea
4
is that we
cars
would do
pull up
one
to it.
setup and then have different quartets be able to, in essence, stand on that stage.
Got it.
So that all the technical pieces in one place.
Right. Nice. I'm sorry, someone else said something?
I was going to say, Rob could have 4 cars pull up someplace and have a quartet sing for him over their FM radio.
That's right.
Jump tuned to the FM station, right?
There you go. And that is Carver Shop. We are actually, so our chapter, my quartet, are talking about doing exactly that. There's like a parking lot next to a place called Solana, which is like a care facility or like a retirement village. And we should be able to reach into their rooms with the FM broadcast. So we're talking about doing that. We're going to try it out probably in about 3 weeks or so.
Nice. Yeah. Cool. So, Rob, please confirm the Standing Ovation program, at least when COVID comes back, is it still active in the Mid-Atlantic District?
That's an interesting question. I actually had that question myself. I've gone through the Standing Ovation training, but that's never been requested, at least for this area that I am, Atlantic District. It was Atlantic at the time, but Central Division. So be honest with you, I'm not sure who's even certified to do Standing Ovation, or that's even been asked for much.
So for those that don't know, this was a society-wide program run by the districts from many years ago, and the main point is we get when we go to contest, we get feedback on 2 songs. We do our biggest exposure to our audiences are on our shows, where we have a lot more than 2 songs, and they have a lot more, with the lighting and the MCs and the sound, and a lot of more things that affect how people perceive our group and barbershop in general. And the point of the Standing Ovation program is to have someone provide us constructive criticism on our shows and tell us ways that we can improve them. So whether or not, when COVID happens, whether Mid-Atlantic still formally has that program, asking someone you trust from a neighboring chorus to come watch your show, but with a critical eye and give you constructive feedback on how to improve yourself is something to consider.
And so Terry, to answer then that, I haven't heard that the Standing Ovation program in Mid-Atlantic District has been stricken or is dead. The thing we want to do, though, is we want to make sure when chapters request a standing ovation, I'm not sure how we funnel that through. Right. There's got to be a request mechanism, I would think, for that. We want to have someone who's been calibrated to know what to look for, to come and to give an unbiased kind of, not critique, but assessment, observations. Looked like your MC maybe could have said this a little bit better. It looks like the lighting in this area was a little bit dim, hard to see. Looks like this song didn't come across right.
There's lots of dead space here and there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we definitely want calibrated folks to go out and do that.
Yeah. Okay. So chorus membership requirements for performance. Now, and depending on your level of chapter, you may not have any. If you're a member of the chapter, you can perform with this. If you are going to have requirements to compete or perform, you want them tied to your mission. You can have attendance requirements, vocal and visual from recording. So these types of, and different level, any level of course can have some level of requirement, like submit a recording of yourself. That's the requirement. You have to submit a recording and listen to yourself. Is very easy and not very intimidating for guys to do. And I guarantee if you have the guys put a recorder in front of their mouth, they're probably going to work a little more on their music before they make the recording. Does not fit every chapter to do this type of thing. So I personally recommend you find something to do that have the guys earn their way onto the stage, depending on if it fits into your chapter definition. But be careful. There are lots of chapters that have decided they're going to make it to the next level, and they enforce strict standards and kick out a third of the chorus, and the soul of the chorus gets taken out with it, and the chapter falls apart. I mean, there are lots of stores like that. So if you're going to decide to implement something, please do it. Be very careful, very truthful in communicating what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, and be as straightforward with the chorus about it, and mean what you say and say what you mean. I see a chat while I'm reading that. Any other questions, comments on what people have done successfully or lessons learned from requirements for people to perform? For someone that does have a requirement to go to competition or a show, be willing to unmute and tell us about it?
Yeah, Terry, this is Steve Kirsch. I'll speak up on both sides of this.
Sorry.
I was part of Bryn Mawr in the late 90s when Bryn Mawr was well over 100 men on stage. Went to at least 2 internationals in a row, and then went down the feedback from coaches and judges was that even though we're over 100 men on stage, there are still members on stage that were inhibiting the scores from being higher. And the decision was to start to establish some performance and vocal standards, and that did not go well, not at all. I'm not saying that Bryn Mawr, with the 35, 40 guys they have now is the result of that decision. But I know a lot of people that went through a lot of pain because of it. So I would caution everybody heading down that path. Remember what we're trying to do here. It's not all about competition. It's all about, for me, it's all about singing and having fun with my friends. On the other side, with Parkside, before you audition, you actually go through our process, our process of both performance and audio recording. So you walk into the environment, into the culture, knowing exactly what the expectations are. And then we continue to do that. And one of the things that was new for me is the feedback mechanism given back to each of the recordings. It's not a check or minus, you pass or fail. It is, it is great constructive feedback. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you have to know that you go through the process to learn the music, to be, to continue to perform, to continue to, be up on the risers and growing with the rest of us. So.
Great. Thank you very much for sharing, Steve. Others? Positive or negative experiences?
Yeah, if I could pop it again, please. I very much reflect what Steve is talking about. The things we used to do under the standard things, with contests being very important and everything else. I am sensing, I think, a very favorable change towards, let's get back together for conventions where we can sing together, where we can start enjoying each other's vocals rather than trying to concentrate on two songs. I think we can take this very, very bad time, this COVID time, and if we can stick together, we can make something very permanently growth-wise come out of it. So, as I said earlier, I am looking forward to coming out of the shell. And when we come out, I want us to sing together. I want us to spend all the time in the lobby. I want us to spend the time in the rooms. I want us to be singing together again. That's what I want. Yeah, definitely. I want to refine my craft. I want to do well on stage. I want to learn. I want to be educated, and we have the best educators in the world. But at the same time, I want to spend some time in the lobby.
Awesome. So
May I follow up on that?
real quick.
I had the privilege of being on the district board for a couple of years. And the big concern about a lot of people on the board is how do we make the division and district competitions for the people who don't come because they're always feeling like there's no room for them to sing and to enjoy the company of all the people they've known for years. And I'm sure they're still considering that, I would hope, because it's just too much concentration on there's no time for singing like Rusty just mentioned.
And notice, at least the plan for Cleveland, we'll see whether they're able to make it, is to have a chorus festival. They're rethinking international to make it a little less competition focused, which I like. So when you move on, and particularly thanks to Steve for sharing his experiences. I think, depending on your chapter's identity as defined, some sort of requirement may be something you want to consider. Just be very careful about it. And remember, you can go get a lot of benefit just by asking guys, by giving guys feedback and having a feedback process without a hard go, no go. Right, quick check the chat. And yes, some chapters have tried the split chorus, and you can have people opt in to be in your competition chorus when you're going to competition. There's other ways of doing that as well, but a lot of programs are administratively burdensome, and then the volunteer music team aren't able to keep up with it, and then that adds to the frustration. So it's a good idea if done very carefully and in a way that is in sync with the identity of your course. Okay.
I'll just give as an example for what we had gone through. We had gone to the regional competition, and we were trying a couple things, new interpretation kind of things that the director wanted to do, and we scored lower than we have in the past at this point. So then the decision was made that when we're going to go to division, that we are going to basically put our effort and focus into improving the quality, the sound and everything else of the group. So from division, we did beyond that. We pretty much went 3 to 4 months, really just working on a couple points. But we were also starting to lose members long term that way because of that over focus on getting better music.
We're losing your signal, Tom. So
so it's a very fine.
Yeah. Rob, if we can go ahead and
hang on a second. Let me see if I can get him muted.
And it's hard, especially, as I said, when you've got a director who wants to go one way on it and the group is.
There you go.
Hey, Tom, you were in and out. We couldn't hear some of it. I thank you for sharing, and I think your main point, which in sync with what we were talking about. If there's more, we can bring it back at the end during parking lot.
Yep.
Moving on to quartet support and development. The Think program that I talked about includes a music program survey that I do stats on, and I believe the least satisfaction answer I get in the question is well, the way the question is worded is the amount of opportunities for informal quartetting is just right, too much, too few, too little, way too little, and it's the farthest off the ideal answer than most of the other questions. Most of our members love the opportunity to sing informally in quartets, and many of our directors don't prioritize that, or are fine with it, but somebody needs to make it happen. So having, depending on the size of the chapter, having someone focused on quartet supported development is a good thing. It adds fun to the program and will keep members coming back. Someone involved with over quartet support and development would help with formal and, let me finish the slide and then I'll get back to you. Formal and informal quartetting, fun activities at the chorus, perhaps a Barbara Polecat program. I'm not sure whether Harmony Classics is still active or not. VLQs, you could have a smaller group learn a song that wants to do something a little more challenging and extra, do an extra song for the show in a VLQ, give that experience. And of course, singing Valentines. We know that singing in quartets improves individuals' ears and confidence when they can do it. And whether or not they want to do it full time in a quartet, but giving them the opportunity to have fun doing it has many, many benefits. But go ahead, Rob.
If I can interject just for a second, I would be absolutely remiss, considering my participation in Bucks County lo these many years, that an obvious thing missing from this list would be tag singing, of course. That would be at the top of Chuck's list, for sure. But tag singing can really help develop your ear, yep, help develop your quartet, and that can be a lot of fun.
Absolutely, and we had tag singing is something to do in chapter meeting, which can be more than 4 people and not just a quartet, but absolutely included on the list. This is more the responsibilities of someone running quartet support and development, but yep, yes, cool. Absolutely, adding tags in there is a great idea.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to add on to to get quartets, maybe everyone in the chorus, every year since I can remember, at least for 25 or 30 years, the Pine Barrens, once a year, usually in June, has everybody in the chorus is assigned a quartet. Some people have to sing 2 different parts, but it goes over a 3-month period where you assign the quartets, and they get the chance each week or every other week to get together by themselves while one part of the chorus is still rehearsing. The other people in quartets can go out and get coached also by someone else in the chorus. And it's a gala. We have a whole bunch of guests come in and watch it, and it's fun. And I've been a judge over there, maybe 7 or 8 times for fun. But we have 4 people, and we pick the different categories to judge in, and we get the little medals for each person who wins in the top 3 places, that type of thing. So it is fun. It takes a lot of work by 1 or 2 people, but some of the quartets come up with all sorts of things, including parodies and that type. It's a lot of fun, and everyone gets to sing in a quartet.
It's a great idea. We do something similar. And you have a wide variety of people doing elaborate parodies with costumes. And we have some guys that are that night throwing together a polecat just so they can get a chance to sing. And all of it is fine and all of it is fun. And it's highly recommended. Anybody else have other quick anecdotes of successes in quartet support and development? So have someone on the music team think about it. It's a combination of informal quartetting and supporting existing quartets and doing matchmaking for people that might want to get in a quartet. Your chapter is, there isn't a chapter for quartets. You are the music voice performance for your members, not just for your chorus. And some of your members might have more fun quartetting than they do in chorus. And they are part of the barbershop family too. Okay, and lastly, and under the roles of music performance, budgeting and planning. So this is a summary list of the types of things that are responsible, you are likely responsible for in your budget for your chapter as a music and performance VP. Anything to do with purchasing the music and the learning tracks and the copyright, which got harder in the last few years. There is, if you go to the VHS website, there's good materials on copyright that they keep up to date. So if you have questions about what the right way to do it legally, I highly recommend that you go out to do that. And they have people on staff that will help you get songs cleared as well. But so you need to know what's in your budget. If you don't know what your chapter chart of accounts is, ask your treasurer to provide you the accounts that apply to music. Lots of chapters keep spreadsheets, and we'll show you the history of what was budgeted and spent over the last many years. It's great to go back and see the history. It helps for planning in the future. But of course, you need to have done planning to, how many songs are we going to learn next year? How much coaching are we going to do next year? You have to, and that's the next part of this, you have to have planned for advance, at least to estimate, to be able to know what's going to go into these budgeting items. Question, comments on budget? There are lots of chapters that leave it to the treasurer to just, well, I know this is what they spent last year, so I'm going to do it. I would recommend it is a responsibility to understand your programs, understand your plan for the next year, and contribute to building the budget and monitoring how you're doing against your budget. So I'm a believer in having some sort of yearly planning. This is not, lots of people have maybe have a board retreat or something like this. I'm talking about for the music team. And one way to do it is to plan an afternoon together to really review the musical program and plan out the next year. It doesn't have to be done at once. You could split it over several monthly meetings. But if we're just planning till next week, we're not going to get there. You have to stop and think about the goals that you want to reach 1 year, 3 years from now, and what are the things you need to get there, and lead that down to have that inform your musical calendar and your budget. So to me, the big part of that is reviewing the music program. We often get stuck in, we've always done 2 shows, and we've always done our repertoire this way, and we've always, we do things because we've done them that way and nobody questioned them. Stop and ask the question, reevaluate your music program. What's working and what's not working? Are the music team members effective in their positions? Do you need to train more people? Review your repertoire. Does it have the right balance? Is the right number of songs? Does it take too long to learn new music? That's also shows up highly on the music program survey, as people think it takes too long to learn new music. Do you even set a schedule and tell the members when you expect them to be off the music? Performances, did you perform as much as you wanted this year, and the types of performances? If not, plan to fix it for the next year. How's your audition process? Is your audition song appropriate? We used to use Old St. Louis and realized it's not a Mammy song, but it's a little too much towards a Mammy song. So we decided it was time to replace our audition song. Do you effectively support the integration of new members into the chorus? If your membership guy has stats as to how many guests you had and how many became members and how many are still members, there's often room for improvement there. If you're going to have performance standards for your members, as we discussed earlier, are they at the right level? Is the implementation fair and efficient? What could be improved? Are your chapter meetings fun and positive? We've started an annual survey where we ask the members how much they enjoy the chapter meeting, and then we can track that year after year and see how we're doing and where we're slipping. We assume that it's going to drop this year under COVID, but we'll see. Do you have the right amount of coaching? Do you have the right coaches? Well, we've always used that coach. Well, think about it. And this, based on that view, plan out the musical calendar. Plan your coaching. Are you going to go to competition? When do you want coaches? Lots of coaches are hard to book in advance. Plan out what's the right time to have them. Are you going to go to Harmony College East? Yes, of course. When are you going to introduce new songs? When you need to start introducing all the songs you're going to need for the fall show and so forth. Some of them may be committee work in advance to prep to get blessing, and is not all developed by the committee, but all this should come out of music team planning. Questions, comments, successes, and lessons learned on planning and budgeting. Okay. A lot of administration around pulling that all together, but an important part of a successful music team over the long term. All right, my only slides left are COVID, talk about healthy chapter initiative, and parking lot. So let's dive into COVID life briefly. So let's start with if anybody has specific questions they want to hear from others about how they've been successful on Zoom. Okay, so let's start with the questions and then start filling in the answers. Anything specific? So let's throw out a couple. So how many of you are using breakout rooms for sectionals on Zoom? Most, okay. Using breakout rooms for other things? Brian, what do you use breakout rooms for?
Just social interaction, touching base with guys. Our director very thoughtfully creates random groups and will send us out into breakout rooms for just socialization. That'd be that social time that break time during a rehearsal.
We've certainly found that to be so important, and our guys seem to. We use if you don't know, Zoom has one of the breakout features is just randomly assign people to groups. Say the number of groups you want, and just and that's what we do. So so that way people get paired with different, and we have a discussion topic. We give them a discussion topic anywhere from how did you find the chorus and how did you find Barbershop to what's the best sports movie of all time. Just just something that gets a small group of guys interacting with one another, and then we have somebody they go out in the breakout rooms, and each breakout group pick spokesman that gives a summary of what they talked about during the section, and our guys love that. We've been doing it every week. We're going to start the year do a little more singing. We're probably going to switch to every other week for that discussion group and do a member interview or something else and different. But you had your hand up for something else.
Basically the same as both of you. We did one time we listened to several choruses, and then we broke up into little groups first, and we individually then with maybe 3 or 4 people evaluated ourselves and came back with what we thought the score should be. It was something different.
Nice. Anyone do some sort of electives?
We played some games. They call it Kazoom or a Zoom or something like that. That was a lot of fun.
And I've done it. I haven't led it, but Della had basically it's like a game show online. Ask questions and members submit the answers, and Kazoom actually tallies up online who gets the right answer, and it's a lot of fun. You have to come up with the questions and set it up, but great. We actually ask our guys, what do you have something in your life that you could talk passionately about for 30 minutes? And we've had we've had an elective on how to build a sports car and how to show your barbershop collection, as in framing and so forth. And we've had like a scientist on the COVID pandemic, and we just ask for guys, military and music. We had lots of guys with neat ideas. It's something that we're willing to put together a half hour and then paired two electives. So give the guys a choice, and then we do that the last thing before, at the end of the evening, before Afterglow. So if you run over a little bit, it doesn't make any difference. And so we have that, either that slot or a guest speaker.
No, it occurs to me, I mean, so that's really cool. I love that idea, calling it electives, something that's different. This may be related to barbershop, but maybe not. Our chapter does an elongated program. We have a fellow who does a great job, collects tidbits from around the internet and submissions, that people do funny things and stories and whatnot. And so then he presents that. But, it occurs to me that the most important thing that we're doing here is to encapsulate the interaction, and to keep the interaction going between people, and to keep that open, keep that bond open, so we can still share in brotherhood, while it's really difficult, technically challenging to sing and to ring a chord. We'll that'll be so sweet when we do that, but really it's keeping that interaction up. So I like your idea, Terry, what you said too. We might try and do that.
Our
Anybody
president
else?
during our business,
I'm sorry,
our
one at a time.
president during our business meetings,
Go ahead, Cliff. Go ahead,
our
Cliff.
president during our business meetings always focuses on whoever's had a birthday that week. And ahead of time, he talks to the people and gets them to give him a lot of information about them, their background, and so forth. And then he basically roasts them during the business meeting as a part of the birthday celebration.
Nice.
It's a good way to get to know people. And if people don't respond, then they have to talk about themselves. So they have a choice. They either let him do it, or they're going to have to do it themselves.
Nice. What are other
I think one of the big
successful-
things that's been helping out with the whole, with the whole COVID situation is we're a group of, decent size, so that we've got to actually know members or get to know people, because when you're singing, you've got a little bit of chat time here and there, but we've been spending a lot more time finding out guys you put together randomly in the room or whatever you're doing, and you find out about their backgrounds. We've been having, like guilty pleasure hobbies. Like we found one of the guys is 85 and does figure skating, things of that nature, and show videos. So a lot of things to make the group stronger. At least it's going on. Although, as we've said, we're taking breaks every once in a while, like we just took a couple breaks over Christmas, because everybody's getting some COVID, shell shock to a point here too.
Right.
Zoomed out, I think they call it.
Yeah, that's good. Other Zoom success stories. Go ahead, Steve.
We've been going through with all of the polecats, and we've got somebody who's been doing an insane amount of editing time, but he's basically, everybody who wants to records a polecat with video, and then he puts them together in one of those Brady boxes. So we should have the whole repertoire of the chorus, knowing all the polecats probably within a couple more months.
Nice. Steve? Kurt?
Yeah, so we've done a couple things. Number one, anytime we have new member who's passed through the audition process, we'll put them on a hot seat and ask like 5 or 10 random questions just to get to know them a little bit. We've put some of our guests on the hot seat. We had Crossroads in as section leaders one night to go through one of the charts we're working on. We've brought in a whole bunch of different guests to just mix it up and I think Rob mentioned it. It's to us, it's all about just maintaining the bond we have with each of our members to make sure that they're engaged, that they value the time, even though it's on Zoom, they value that time so that they can just feel invested into this whole process. Our goal is to just keep doing that, keep mixing up, keep making it fun and enjoyable, so it's worth their time. And then when we go live, as Rusty has mentioned several times, it's We're just there for just this big joy session once it's over.
Yes. Great.
One of the
Great.
good ways to make money, matter of fact, our best way to make money as a chorus has been what we used to do called 50-50. And now we do it as a roulette wheel that has all kinds of music going with it. And then when it stops on someone, there's all kinds of explosions. And you have to, it's $5 to have your name put on the wheel. And so like people will send in $50 to the treasurer and say, that's $5 for the next 10 weeks.
Nice.
And so we do that during the business meeting. We have the roulette wheel, and it's actually been a pretty good way to raise money because people have realized that without the gigs, we need more money, and it's a good way to have fun while you're doing it.
Awesome. Lots of good.
Yeah, we've been trying to keep,
Go ahead,
we've been
Tom.
using the roulette wheel as well. And one of the winning aspects of it is that you get a lesson personally with the director, because one of the things we've done is kept the director employed through the whole process. So that needs the funds to be able just to do that. And the idea of having people get individual voice lessons really has been a nice piece, because then he gets paid for the voice lesson that the group is then paying. But it's also a way that we're keeping money raised overall.
Awesome. Are there other questions that people want to ask the group for what they're doing or not doing on Zoom?
You know, Terry, I want to jump in. One of the
Please.
questions that does come in sometimes is how to sing, or like, are there ways to sing that, you know, like we can't do that singing in Zoom. Jamulus is a way that can be done for smallish groups, or with, you know, a Jack Trip, I think, is another software, and there's a couple of others that you can try and do that. Nothing's really as good as actually physically being there.
So,
And this is where the barber shop kind of, you know, or the drive-in barbershop comes into play, which we've got a lot of experience with as well.
so
I don't mean it to be a shameless plug for that, but while I'm here, you know, I might as well.
Sure.
That's actually the closest thing that you have to being able to ring chords together live, real time. So there are ways.
Or the drive-in, sorry.
The drive-in.
Drive-in.
The drive-in. Jamulus is a little bit, when I've used it, it's been a little bit funny in the way that it sounds. And so it hasn't really lined up. And
so for those that don't, Jamulus and other things like it's software that is designed to make your singing as close to real time as possible. Zoom does a lot of stuff to make the audio and video quality as good as possible, that even increases the sync time to making 1 or 2 second differences. Jamulus gets rid of that. We're actually experimenting. What we're going to try is to have the director and a quartet on Jamulus, and one person then that is also on the Zoom that is passing that back to the rest of the chorus on Zoom, so the chorus can sing against 4-part harmony.
Right.
Not sure whether it's going to work, but we're going to give it a shot. That's a great point.
Yep. Exactly. So, you know,
One of the things that we've added in is I put together a quartet box, which has wireless mics that go with it. But I also just found something over at Five Below. It was a $10 microphone and Bluetooth speaker that you could then charge at that point. So you can basically stand there wherever you want to be apart with a microphone and speaker without having to be hooked up to any wires at all. And, you know, separate a quartet, or it could even be a larger group that way. And it was $10 for the speaker and microphone.
Yeah, nice.
So
Tommy says to never use Bluetooth.
Anything final on, we kind of need to shift to our parking lot. Anything final on Zoom rehearsals? Any questions? Excellent, great stuff. So I'm going to look down the stuff that I wrote down, and then more came into the chat that Rob will remind me. So the one was how to work effectively with more experienced people. I don't think we directly addressed that. I think the process of having regular meetings and just the interpersonal skills, depending on those people and the director, and getting buy-in from the director. So I guess I'll go back and say, if you are the music performance VP, having a relationship with the director and making sure that you're in sync with that person about how to run the meetings and the direction they want to go and the type of feedback they want to get, that empowers you to lead that, and just make sure you're always in listening mode. There's no silver bullet. It's interpersonal skills. But if you don't put yourself in the role of, I have to tell you what to do, but I'm the administrator to facilitate, let's make, stroke the egos of what have you done in the past that's worked, and make sure you're getting their feedback, and view it as building the team and building consensus across the group. That's over the years I've been involved, we've had groups of section leaders that don't work well together, and others that really gel and give lots of good feedback to the director. And just trying to structure and run your team meetings in a way that people feel valued and gets heard from. We make an effort to. There's certain people like Tony Colosso and myself that, of course, always have an opinion and speak up, and we have to make sure that everybody gets heard from on a topic, and go out of our way to make sure doing that. So that was a lot of rambling. Any other people have advice on the topic of how to work effectively with more experienced people? Mixed courses we talked about. So go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, Terry, I'm just going to echo what you said. I'm in a team with two high-profile barbershoppers, and my job is honestly to listen and question. And I'll do that, and I'll just make sure that, with that, it's to protect the mission at all times.
Great,
so
great point.
Once we're going down a path, I'll question, I'll make sure I understand, but then it's also to make sure that, okay, I'm okay with that. I don't have to bless everything, but it's good that I know, and so that when there is something where I need to push back, it's with a little bit of insight, and I've at least built up, as you said, the interpersonal skills. I've built up the reputation where I'm actually listening, so that I understand the process.
Excellent, thank you. Rusty gives a thumbs up. Okay, mixed courses. I do not have a lot of experience with that. I know the society is putting out a fair amount of music in different formats for mixed and women's and men's parts these days. Were there specific questions there were multiple mixed courses on the group, specific questions you wanted to ask each other about your successes and failures so far?
I'll step in and I'll throw out some thoughts. We're relatively new to this, to actually not even a mixed course. It's two different ensembles. So, from a society standpoint, the society said, hey, we're going to do this thing, but then gave nobody any instructions on how to make part of this work. So a lot of it is similar to my parenting style, which is I had no clue what I'm doing. I made it up and prayed a lot. So to me, it's, the one thing that I know that I need to watch out for is the actual budgeting side of things, because with two different ensembles, we might not necessarily have twice the income, but I know we're going to have twice our musical expense. We're Parkside being what we are, we don't have a musical director, so we don't have that expense, but we do have significant music learning track and coaching expenses that we've essentially doubled over the last 2 or 3 years. So we have to watch out for that. So to me, it's just be real with your budget. Make sure, just make sure that you're counting all those things and being real, whether you have one ensemble, two, just make sure you have that all figured out.
Great,
Steve,
thanks.
are you the MVP for both courses?
Yeah. So the Parkside chapter has a single board of directors who's responsible for an oversight of both of our ensembles, Parkside Harmony, which is our men's ensemble, and Parkside Melody, our women's ensemble. So now my role with each of those ensembles is a little bit different because of the people we have in place, but in essence, yeah, I'm responsible for it. Although, you know, we have some let me say some high level people in both ensembles to make it a little bit easier for me in some ways and a little bit more challenging others. So it's a good problem to have. But the answer is yes, I'm responsible for both.
That's, yeah, and there is no one way to deal with that either. From a, do you have separate budgets or a single budget? Do you have separate music teams or a single music team when they work together? There's, you know, the society, because it said there's lots of ways of doing it and figure it out, but it's a lot harder, I think, logistically and administratively than it might seem on first. Hey, let's form a second chorus.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing I'll say to that point, Terry, is I'm on both music teams. However, there are two separate music teams that deal with the musical selection for each of the ensembles, as well as section leaders running their rehearsal, planning their rehearsals. There'll be collaboration when we want to have something joint. We've done a couple charts that have been a mixed charts, 8-part, 12-part charts. But so we have joint rehearsals at times, but then there's also separate as well. So
great, thank you. Anything else particularly on mixed choruses?
Yeah, Harrisburg has just become a mixed chorus, and within the past year, and we're sort of just playing it by ear. We have about 4 women right now, and expecting another small group of women to come in. But right now we just have the women singing lead and tenor. And it seems to be working out at this point. One thing I will say is the women the women that we have are very active and willing to take on leadership roles, and they're doing one heck of a job. So every woman we have in the chorus has taken on a leadership role.
Great. So one thing I will channel from that I've heard Steve Scott talk about is that don't make assumptions about someone's voice based on their gender identity or their gender at birth. A voice is a voice, and they different range. There are women out there or non-binary people that can sing baritone. Don't try to force them or make assumptions about
we have one
how they'll win. Treat people individually as to how best they're going to fit in.
Yeah, we have one woman coming in that could very easily sing baritone. But we haven't changed any music. We haven't raised the pitches at all on any of our music, and they seem to be working out pretty well.
And that's a decision that a music team is going to have to discuss, that might have to evolve over time based on the percentage of singers and the range of the singers, and that's going to affect your repertoire selection. It adds a complexity, but it's something to consider. If you have a few women, keeping the same register might work. If you start getting more, then you might need to expand or look at your arrangements. So I want to get to the rest of the parking lot. FYI, so we'll officially end at 5:30 and stop the recording. Rob has said it's okay. If people want to stay and ask me or each other questions beyond 5:30, you're welcome to do that. But let me quickly go through the rest of the parking lot that I have. There was a couple questions about COVID and dealing COVID. I think that we've addressed that. Things to help us grow, I'd say there is certainly no silver bullet to that, but doing well, all the things that we've talked about in a music leadership team are
I'd like to put in a plug for singing virtual songs.
Okay.
We've now posted 7 virtual songs on the internet, on YouTube. And what I'm finding is that every time we do another one, the recordings get better and better. The guys are working harder, their recordings are improving. They're obviously listening to themselves and making repeated recordings in order to make them better. And and it also is funny because, you tell people to go look in the mirror to see what they look like when they perform. when you do a virtual song, that mirror stays on the wall. It doesn't change. So if you've done something in a virtual song that looks goofy, you're going to learn from it over and over again, and it teaches you more and more the next time.
That's a great
So
point.
virtual songs, I think, have been a great way to learn.
And something to help us be strong coming out of COVID, which was one of the other comments. I think that fits that perfectly. Responsibilities of the music team, I believe we covered, and its details are in the slides you can refer back to. Spreading the work. Remember, there are lots of tasks out there. By asking more people to do smaller amounts of things, maybe just librarian or maybe just coordinate contest or something like that, you can lighten the load of the music performance VP or other people. So that's the parking lot that I had. Rob, you've captured a few more.
Yes, let me switch to my screen here. So we had, I'm going to take the last 2 points that I had in the parking lot were covered already. So Rusty talked about the singing Valentines, and I think we covered that a bit, how we're going to do that, and got some good ideas. And Rosati and Kirsch covered the Standing Ovation program. That was one item. We want to go back up to the very top of the list, though, and talk a little bit about, and sometimes in my imagination, it's part of developing that relationship between, VP of music and director, having those difficult conversations or having meaningful conversations. So the balance of content and music development, when you have a music director or a director pushing to do more or less later is fine, that sort of thing. So sometimes I know that can get all, bollocksed up in difficult emotions, I think that's where the question is. Rosati, I think I see you still on. Not sure if you want to clarify a point there. I think I captured it. While we're waiting for that, Terry, I don't know, you probably you do. I came upon a resource. It was the Visions of Excellence book that Joe Cerruti helped assemble, which had a lot of very great perspectives of, I think it was 30 or so directors
Basically, name the top barbershop directors of all time and then ask them their opinion on warm-ups and repertoire selection and everything. It's amazing.
So I think it's a great book to have. Every chapter should have it. Every VP of music should have it. Every director should probably have it as well. I think it's great to help have a good platform, and that kind of covers that question is kind of covered in that material.
So a couple other things from resources. Remember, their VHS website is always evolving and adding more things. If you go to look at the Healthy Chapter Initiative, it will talk to about 2 programs in particular for you to consider. One is called Think, to think about your identity, to think about your music program, to think about the level of effort you put into your operations. It's a facilitated program to help just kind of re-energize and stop and look at things you're doing. The other is a chapter assessment. It's a list of about 90 questions about how you do everything in your chapter, and just asking the questions and thinking about them is a different way to assess the way you're doing those things. So after 5:30, you can ask me more questions about it, or you can check them out. The other thing I would highly recommend, it was in the email I sent at 2:30 today, and Rob will include it with everything else, is there's a chapter music leadership guide. There used to be a music leadership team manual many years ago, and that has, as it's been updated over the years, they've shortened it down. It is free from download. The link that I provided is directly from the marketing place download, where you can download it for free. It covers lots of things that we talked about today, includes other ideas, and I highly recommend that you download that for free. At 5:29, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, and then if we have any other questions, stay on afterwards. I just want to thank you all, not only for participating today to share your ideas, but for agreeing to be a leadership in your member of your chapter. The Music and Performance Vice President is such a critical role in the chapter and has such an opportunity to have a positive influence on the success of the chapter over the next year. So please reach out to your other friends on this group that we've made today. Feel free to reach out to me if you get burnout or energized and look back at these materials. And I wish you best of luck in 2021. Thank you all very much.
Rusty, are you waving to someone, or do you?
Yes, I am. I want to give a quick call out to Larry Miller, who is one of the guys in the Harrisburg chapter who welcomed me to the society.
Oh, very good.
In sometime 1970,
Yeah, right.
Good to see you, Larry.
Okay. Terry, thank you so much
Good to
for
see you,
today's
Rusty.
session. I very much appreciate your willingness to come on and to spend time with us and to share your insights. And, you know, I learned a lot from you and also from everyone in the gallery. I mean, it was a very great session. So thank you. Thank you. And thank you, everyone.
I'll follow the sun. And now the time has come, and so my